Greetings, family, from the Make Us Bar Podcast Bureau. I've used the word extremely a couple of times, but this is another fan out for your boy Seth Garu Baxter for Make Us Bar Podcast Bureau, where we are creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. Tonight, we're going to have a little fun and take a little bit of the podcast in a different direction. A bunch of you have heard in my last few interviews how much I enjoy jazz. Well, tonight's interview guest is beyond belief a talent and a genius. I found myself as this old cat who loves jazz, just dazzled by the talent. We met recently at an event I've thrown, and this is one of the best up-and-coming jazz artists, musicians that I have found. And tonight we are honored to have her as our guest. Please make her feel welcome, Lana Drincic. Lana?
Waiting for a memory to fade. I'm still reeling. And when I come around, you'll be a world away from me. So free.
Lana, if you don't mind me asking, what was the title of that?
That's a song I wrote called Virgo, No Pain.
Virgo, No Pain.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, I was dating a Virgo when I wrote this song. And one of the lyrics in it, the last lyric of the song is called No Pain, or it's No Pain. So the song is Virgo and then in parentheses, No Pain.
Where, if you don't mind us delving into that before we get really deep, No Pain is the title?
Virgo.
I'm sorry.
No pain.
Virgo,
Yeah.
No Pain. I meant to emphasize no pain. So is that part of when we sometimes have gone through relationships and we have to title something as No Pain? Does it come from an emotional place?
Definitely an emotional place. I mean, I don't know. I think this song was I wrote it while I was in a relationship and sort of still getting over a previous one. And it's kind of about healing from that previous relationship and how you kind of have to convince yourself that you're not in pain anymore when you try to move on too fast. So yeah, that's a little bit what it's about.
Fantastic. I think the title is beautiful. Lana, if you don't mind introducing yourself to our audience, where do you come from? Where's your native state?
I'm from California. I'm originally from Kingsburg, which is this small rural town in the Central Valley. So it's like about 20 miles south of Fresno, super small farm town.
And your family, how was that small town compared to your genius in discovering your music talents? How did that start?
Well, my family is actually from Serbia. My parents are both Serbian immigrants. And I was the first generation to be born here. So I grew up with my family in the Central Valley, and My parents are, my dad's a bit of a guitar player. My mom's not a musician at all. But when I was really young, my mom encouraged me to do piano lessons. So I started doing piano when I was 5, classically trained. And I just really enjoyed it and stuck with the piano, never stopped playing it.
What introduced you to jazz? Or actually, I guess I should give a little backdrop to our audience. Part of my background is music producing and nightclubs and large music events. And I first got introduced to you where I was wowed, where you were playing and you're with your friends, and it was phenomenally in tuned and melodic and spiritual, the type of music you played. I'm just curious, what brought you into that zone? What was your first inspiration?
Well, I started playing jazz in big bands through school when I was in like middle school. And as I got into high school, I started getting pretty into it and getting more serious about it, and just started really developing a love for the music. And I was lucky growing up around Fresno. There's a pretty small but rich jazz scene there. And
If you don't mind, Lana, if you don't mind, elaborate on the small jazz scene there. Tell us about a little bit about the culture you were exposed to in that jazz scene. When you say small jazz scene, nightclubs, schools, etc. Elaborate if you don't mind.
Fresno's not super heavy on the nightclub scene, at least now, especially post-COVID, as I've gotten to know it as an adult. But educationally, there was a pretty strong community of teachers. There still is this bass player. His name's Richard Lloyd Giddens Jr. And he was a huge mentor to me, one of my first mentors when I was probably like 12 or 13, just getting into jazz. I attended a summer camp and he was working there. And since I met him there, he was just a big help to me as I was growing up through that scene. He's incredible. And there's this pianist, Craig Von Berg, who was my first jazz teacher. So I started studying with him in high school, and he had a huge impact on me and really just kind of molded who I was as a jazz player when I was a teenager.
And what made you fall in love with jazz? Was it the history? Was it the style of its music? Was it for me, it's the meditative presence it gives you. What was your particular one? Being that you're such a young jazz genius, what was your particular one that said, jazz is my style?
I mean, I really just loved the way it sounded. Like, I remember Miles Davis was one of the first jazz
Oh my gosh.
I started listening to. And I mean, obviously he's incredible. So
Absolutely.
I just love his music. And also, since I came from a classical background, it felt like it was so different from what I've been doing my whole life musically. Whereas,
what were you doing if you don't mind me asking, let's backtrack. What were you doing before?
I was studying just classical piano. That was really all I did.
Can you give us a sample?
Playing wise?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could.
And you know what? That's okay. We'll get to some other stuff in a little bit. But that's right. Please forgive me. Go right ahead.
Okay. I wouldn't want to embarrass myself.
Oh, you couldn't. After I've seen the talent, Maker's Bar is about creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. And you're one of those leaders I've seen as a young person that is such a genius in this music world. So not a problem whatsoever. Hopefully we'll get to some other music pieces in a little bit during this interview, but please continue.
Yeah. So, it's obviously a lot of it has left me at this point since I haven't been a practicing classical musician for a while, but I grew up playing, Mozart and Bach and um, Beethoven, and I loved it, and I still love classical music, but jazz just presented something totally different, like a language that you could learn, and it just felt like a more liberating way to express myself. Like I wasn't so much confined in a box of this is what the music is, and you have to learn it exactly like this. At least that's what it felt like to me.
Can you play? Can I request? Play something that was your first inspiration that you know really well that you feel comfortable with. Would you give us a little piece if you don't mind?
Sure.
Whatever first comes to your mind.
Yeah, this is one of the first blues heads that I learned in high school.
Oh, dig it. Okay, I'm ready. Blues is up there with my jazz. Let's go, chick. Uh, bravo. And so, and what made you fall in love with that?
I mean, it's just so fun to play, and it's just fun. It feels creative soloing over it. Something else about jazz that I really liked that I didn't get in classical music was that you could play it with other people. Obviously that's a huge part of the music is playing with other musicians and communicating with them musically and, feeling a vibe with everybody. In classical piano, it's just you. There's none of that communication.
Did your parents support your jazz endeavors, or because they were gearing you toward the classical style, did they support your jazz endeavors as well?
They were very supportive of it. I'm really thankful to have parents that were supportive of it. My mom was the one who pushed me to, start going to camps and things like that. And I was hesitant at first. It's hard starting something that you don't feel like you're good at. And I definitely felt like coming from classical music, I was like, I don't know how to play jazz at all. And I'm going to make a fool of myself in front of people that do know how to play it. But she was like, no, do it. Like, it'll be good for you. So she was super supportive in that regard. And, my parents were always driving me to lessons and driving me to all these different rehearsals and honor bands and 7 a.m. jazz band. So yeah, my parents were super, super supportive.
And your parents were not musicians, correct?
They're not. No, my mom is not at all. My dad plays a little bit of guitar, but neither of them are, career musicians or anything.
And then going through high school, I imagine I worked with young people a long time, and I'm just curious, when young people in high school have a unique talent or a gift like yourself, sometimes it can be ostracizing. Did you find yourself a little ostracized because you were a jazz aficionado in high school, or maybe not at all? Maybe friends came to you and said, hey, we're digging this. How did your high school experience and your appreciation of jazz come along?
I definitely got that feeling of being ostracized. Not like, I went to a very small high school. My class was like 200 people, and the music program at my school was really small. And I did have one friend when I was going there who is a jazz vocalist, and they're still one of my really good friends to this day, but they're a little bit older than me and graduated before I did. So those latter years of high school when they weren't there, I felt very much like it's hard to find people who like this as much as me, you know?
Why do you think that is? I'm curious. Why do you think that is? It's hard to find people that like it as much as you. If just your own understanding, why do you think it is?
Well, I kind of think it depends on where you are, because where I was, there just wasn't, like in my little town, there wasn't a program that was fostering a love of jazz. It was just something that it seemed like the band director didn't take super seriously. And when the band director's not taking it seriously, the students aren't going to. But there are places, there's some high schools where there's super strong jazz programs. I was just working with the band at Agora Hills High School
Oh my
2 weeks
goodness.
ago, and they're incredible. Like, I can't believe they're high schoolers. And it's obvious that they really like it, you know? And I'm sure whoever is in that program and loves jazz doesn't feel ostracized because there's a whole community around them. But it can be hard when you don't have that community.
How do you get over some of those challenges when it's hard like that? What helped you get over it?
I was really lucky to have mentors, the ones that I mentioned earlier, Richard Giddens and Craig Von Berg. It felt kind of like I had to go outside of the bubble of my town and my high school, and go up into Fresno and explore that on my own. So I was lucky to have that community somewhere. It just wasn't in my immediate vicinity, you know.
Now, jazz has often been described as a music that brings us into a unity. Do you find that same consensus in your own performances and when you perform jazz itself?
Absolutely. You have to be on the same page as the people that you're playing with to make music with them. And I think that being in the same page is what creates unity, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Now, as a young person, and we've had this recent election, we're looking for unifying forces since we talked about that. I've always found myself to feel that jazz has been that great equalizer. Is that something you look to do in your performances to create a unified environment as well?
Yes, totally. I think it all starts with the musicians on stage. And it's really important that even outside of a musical sense, that you have a connection and understanding and love for one another as people before
How do
music.
if you don't mind, can I follow up on that? How
Yeah.
do you create the connection? What are you looking for to create the connection? What do you see in the audience? Is it the way they start to move? Is it something in response? What do you look for to create that connection?
Well, I think it's different when you're talking about the people you're on stage with versus the people in the audience, because to be honest, sometimes it can be really hard to tell if the audience likes what you're doing, at least from my perspective. Sometimes it's very clear, that they're vibing with it and they like it. And sometimes there's people in the audience that are just like this, and they're not excited.
Resistant,
Yeah,
resistant. Yes.
it's like, do you like what I'm doing? Do you not like it? Are you just reserved? So it can be hard to tell. That being said, I feel like the only thing I can really do is not try to impress anybody or anything, just to make sure that I'm honest and sincere in what I'm doing on stage and with the people I'm performing with, and hope that whatever we're creating together is going to translate positively to the audience, and they're either going to like it or not. It's out of my control at
Absolutely.
that point.
Absolutely. You mentioned one of my favorite words is positive, because we're all trying to continue to inspire positivity is the way I look at it. Speaking of positivity, could you play for us a song that you felt really inspired you? And I'm just going to be quiet and you just go at it. What did you feel? What's a song that comes to your mind that you can give to us that you felt completely was a positive song you enjoyed playing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Can
definitely.
you give us a can you do that for us?
Yeah, definitely.
Please go right ahead. Oh my goodness. I don't know the name of that if you don't mind me asking.
That is an original of mine called Sebastian.
Elaborate if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, you said to play a song that, I felt positively about, or I felt like I've had, some sort of positive experiences with it. And that's a song that I wrote a couple years ago, and every time I play it with people, it feels great. It feels really fun,
Yes,
and it's something that we can all vibe on and feel good about.
it does. It really does. I thought it was beautiful, Lana. I thought
Thank
it was beautiful. Absolutely. Lana, do you choose to collaborate with other musicians and describe that process and what that's about?
I do. I love collaborating with other musicians. I feel like that's what jazz is all about. Um, it's, never a solo endeavor. Yeah, I like writing tunes on my own and then bringing them to a band and having the band play them. Um,
The band is your friends? Are they people you work with regularly? The band, if you can elaborate a little bit on that.
the band is ever changing, but the band can be my friends. I've done lots of performances with my friends. The band can be um, musicians that I've never played with, and we got put on a gig together, and we're gonna throw some original music together, and we play it. But since it feels like my music is always going through these different permutations and different groups, it's like whatever I write is just a vessel, and the musicians that play it are going to make it what it is in that moment. And I think that's the beauty of collaboration, is that I can write something, and then as soon as I present it to another musician, they can do whatever they want to it, and it can become something completely new and different.
You said a vessel. You chose a very interesting word. I often, in my work, when I had my nightclub, when I worked with young people, when I worked with Bishop Tutu, when I worked with musicians, even you, I always find myself feeling as a vessel. So you as a young person, as a vessel, how do you see that being fulfilled? When you say vessel, describe you as a vessel.
I think being a vessel as a musician is, the music is so much bigger than us as individuals.
It communicates a message, right? It communicates a message.
Definitely, yeah. And, I feel like we're just here to serve the music, whether that's me being a vessel as a composer or as a player. I think the goal as an artist is just to be so good technically at what you do that you can be a vessel for the music, right? If that makes any sense.
It does. And no, you said it very well, sweetheart. You said it very well.
Thank you.
And as a vessel, sometimes we have a higher purpose. I find myself, especially when it comes to music or communicating something in a speech I'm giving, when you are a vessel, you are an empty glass, an empty pitcher of something, and you want to be poured into to share it and spread it out. And so as a vessel, I look to be filled up with what I need to do from higher power. Is that how you see that same thing?
Definitely. Like, I feel like the music and creative ideas and everything are all just things that are out there. And as a vessel, I have to make myself open to them so I can absorb and just pass it through me,
Yeah. Do you have a way to describe that process a little bit? So when you become open, how does that process work? So you go into a quiet place and begin to meditate, or do you just go to your piano and start to play music? When you are getting in that state, if you don't mind, describe that process.
Yeah, I think with writing, I like to do it by myself a lot of the time. I've written with other people and I love writing with other people, but I feel like I'm the most open when I'm by myself. So I like, going on a walk and not listening to music, just thinking and trying to be aware of whatever's going on around me and try to tune in, I guess. So that when I can come back to the keyboard and sit down, I don't even have to think too hard about what I'm going to do. I kind of just let it happen and let the ideas flow and just follow them as they come.
When your ideas begin to flow, what's your writing process? Do you have a specific notebook? Do you video record it?
It's honestly different every time because I write songs with lyrics, I write songs without lyrics, and the songs start in different ways all the time. Like sometimes I'll think of a melody and quickly voice memo the melody before it leaves my brain. And then I have something to go off of and I work with that. Other times it's like a phrase I have in mind that I write down and save for later. Sometimes it's like harmony, like certain chords that I just sit down and they come out and I just go with whatever is the first inspiration that comes to me.
What inspires you?
Other music, other people's music, and life.
Like you mentioned Miles Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some others who inspire you?
Yeah, I love Miles Davis. I love jazz, but I'm also a really big fan of singer-songwriters. Probably
Oh, like
I
who?
think my favorite musician of all time is probably Elliott Smith.
Oh, chick. You know, I'm so glad you said that. So many people forget about him, and I know that dude, and I love Elliott Smith. Do you have any tunes that you can play that's a sample of his?
Um,
Or inspired? Actually, I guess we should say being careful for YouTube's trademark flag and so forth. Music that inspired you that's similar to Elliott Smith, because I have a number of his albums, and he's one of the cats I really dig too. Do you have some music you can play that is Elliott Smith inspired?
I could probably play any song of mine, and it would be Elliott Smith inspired because he's
Great
had
answer.
of a,
Great answer.
he's had that much.
Great answer, sweetheart. That's such a great answer. So give us a sample that you feel best describes your influence from Elliott Smith.
Sure, definitely. This is a song I wrote um, pretty recently, like within the past few months. It's called Paula's on Her Way.
Paula,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Paula's on her way out the door, and she's taking most of her clothes from the closet we share. It's been good to have a room to myself these days. No more tales of love, the refusal to follow sound advice from the underemployed. I was only trying to help, but oh well, I guess. One foot in, the other out. Some folks I can do without. Come on, let's get this circus on the road and move on. Said it had to end this way, but I've got nothing left to say, except I wish you all the best in everything you do forever. Some girls want that age, lose their veil, and I hope she gets it back for the sake of all mankind. Someone you saw before is now a fragment of who you knew.
Oh, that is fantastic. Why Elliott Smith?
What's that?
Why Elliott Smith? He's very melancholy. He can be very melancholy.
Definitely. He can be melancholy. Um, he he can also be a lot of other emotions, which is why I love him so much. You know.
Fantastic way to put it. Absolutely great way to put it.
Hmm.
Absolutely great way to put it. So
Yeah.
you style is your music styled in a fashion that it can be interpreted to be melancholy, sad, or happy. There is not necessarily a category you would like it to fit in. Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, there's definitely aspects of my music that maybe I wrote from a place of hurt or sadness, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the music is, right? Um, I don't know. I think it's open to interpretation, and if it makes somebody feel sad, then that's good. But maybe I wrote it from a place of hurt, and somebody else, gets a feeling of understanding from it, and not necessarily sadness. It's
I
really,
dig that.
yeah, it's
I dig that.
whatever
I
the
dig it.
person listening to it can get from it.
I dig it. I really dig it. I dig that. Now, I'm understanding you have a new album coming out also. Talk to us about that.
I do. It actually came out yesterday. I'm super excited about it.
What's the
Um,
title? Tell
it's
us the title.
called, it's Lana Drincic and Friends. Yeah, it's the first album I've ever put out. First time I've ever released music, really. And yeah, the project is all my originals that I wrote from about 2020 to 2023 in that span. So basically, like my freshman through junior year of college. And while I was in college, I met some really incredible musicians and I met some of my best friends. And I'm super grateful that they played my music. And I had a band when I was in college, and we would play gigs and stuff. And I still play with them. And got a really great opportunity to record some of that music with that band that I was playing around a lot with. So it's just my originals that I got to record with some of my best friends. So it feels very emotional to finally put it out. It's been a project that's been a long time in the making.
Now, what would you say the style of the music is, and how long is the album, and where can people find it?
Yeah, so a lot of it is jazz inspired. And one of the songs has lyrics to it and is a little more, I guess you could say, in like an Elliott Smith vibe. So I would say the album is partially jazz, partially singer-songwriter, indie. And yeah, it's available on streaming services under my name, Lana Drincic.
If you don't mind, Lana, spell it out, please,
My name.
and for where they can find your music.
Oh, on Spotify, Apple Music. It's available for purchase on Bandcamp as well. It's on Tidal, probably more, but those are about the only ones I know of.
Spell out your name so they can type it in and
Yeah.
locate where it's at.
LANA space DRINCIC, Lana Drincic.
And what do you hope to accomplish by this album?
I think this album is really like a time capsule. Like I said, I recorded it with my best friends, and um, it just kind of captures the vibe of the music we were creating at the time, which was, based around our friendship and our camaraderie. And I just had a lot of fun making the album. So I hope that whoever listens to it has fun too. And yeah, I just feel like it's kind of the start of me as an artist. It's my first album, and I view it like a jumping off point kind of for, more projects to come. So it feels like the first of many.
The first of many. I know that that's coming. Now, when you performed the night of our event, your music was a fusionist jazz vibe. What does that sound like? Can you give us a sample of what that kind of fusionist jazz vibe was? I think that's the best way I can describe it. What does that sound like when you play on your piano right now?
Well, funny thing about that gig is my music never sounds like that. But,
oh no. So Lana, so this is live. So oh boy.
I mean, what I mean is normally I'm playing an acoustic piano and my bassist is playing an acoustic bass, and the horn players in my quintet don't use pedals or anything. But that night there was all this equipment, and there was this, they said, you don't have to bring a keyboard or anything. We have a Rhodes for you. And the Rhodes had just like, it was super distorted. Like,
oh no! So that night, I enjoyed all of that vibe.
And it was super cool. It was super fun.
It was. No, it was so dope. That's why I fell in love with your music. The whole, the whole vibe. I didn't expect that one, but no, it was super dope. Everyone was so talented. Everyone was so super talented, especially you stood out. I just really was flabbergasted at how great all the musicians were. But how would you describe that vibe?
What's that?
How would you describe that vibe that evening compared to your music, since it was so separate?
Well, it was. I had so much fun. It was very high energy. It was also playing outside, and it was raining that night, so I felt like the rain added a little bit to a little bit of chaos in like a fun way.
Well, wait. Let's wait here. I should describe a little bit.
Okay.
So I have a company, and we would throw events in Westlake Village. And at those events, we have hundreds of people come where musicians of all calibers, high and low, can come. And this night we had 4 particular stages. 4. Am I right, Lana?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so in the venues that I would throw those music events, Lana and her friends were on one particular stage. And so at these particular parties, let's just say, it's called The Last Outpost. And so we have musicians, and they have a great deal of freedom. And so that was a big part of that night's event. And the band that gathered with Lana and performed with Lana were exceptionally well received, as I mentioned earlier. And it just seemed like you guys put on such a great show that we didn't notice the chaos, because your vibe was so hypnotizing. Your playing and your voice and the musicians that were with you were such high caliber, all young people, which is a part of what Makerspar tries to do with creating 1 million leaves at a time. As I try and clean it up a little bit, the chaos, but you just you enhanced the whole meaning of that event that night. And tonight was just a sample of what your music is like. So I don't know if everyone's going to say that was cleaned up, Seth Garu. Lana, that was cleaned up. But we have. I said this interview is going to be well fun, and so I'm so glad you said it so earnestly. But I have to say, Lana was the highlight of the evening. You guys have just gotten a sample tonight. We didn't expect that she and her playing and her musicians would be so entrancing. And needless to say, as much as I try to clean up, there's nothing to clean up about their talent. I know for one, I heard Lana's playing, and I'm sure the audience will get more of a sample of that if you check out her album. There's just so much musicianship and talent from young people. And in Maker's Bar's goal in creating new leaders, Lana is one of the new leaders of the jazz generation. I encourage people to check it out because our music events at the Last Outpost, through Hip Hop Cafe, through the Love Evolution movement, Lana is on the cusp of that as one of the new leaders of this music. So, Lana, now we're good. Let's. That was perfect. So now the chaos that ensued was partially because you guys were so talented. So, what would you describe that night? Can you give us a sample of what your music was? I know that one of the things that attracted me in particular was that your piano playing was so hypnotizing. Give the audience a feel for what that style was that brought people in that were so attracted. They left the main stage. We had a couple hundred people at the main stage, and they came to hear you guys because you were so talented. Can you give us a little sample of what you guys were playing? That style of music, I think people would enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we were playing all my originals that night, and we played one. It's called "I Dreamt You Had a House in Melrose."
Yes. Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember that. That's one of the ones I posted a while ago and went viral. So yes, please go ahead.
Let me change my piano sound so it's a little more.
Sounds good. You guys don't mind me. I'm just enjoying Lana playing. Yes. I'm watching your fingers. Yes. Here, sweetheart. That was fantastic. That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. Lana, if you don't mind, again, give out where people can reach you and be able to contact you and get samples of your music and be able to be in touch with you. We'd really love that.
Yeah, so my Instagram is just my name with a period in the middle, so LANA .DRINCIC. And yeah, like I said earlier, streaming services, Bandcamp and everything, same thing, Lana Drincic. Yeah.
I think it's really important for me to notate that One of the reasons I wanted to interview Lana this evening was, aside from the fact I was flabbergasted and a fan immediately of her style of music, Maker's Bar is on the verge. Our goal is creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. And I do feel she's one of those. And I think I really wanted to challenge myself to the rawness of her playing her music, introducing her style to our audience, and really having a fun, organic conversation. I am absolutely humbled and pleased that she chose to share some of her music with us this evening. And I hope our audience will check her out. I've worked with young people myself over 17 years. And Lana is one of the young people that I didn't get the chance to work with as a mentor, but got to enjoy her as an observer and a fan of their music. And I wanted to expose her as one of the leaders in the jazz music. She's a jazz musician genius, and I think a number of people will get to enjoy her progression of growth. So you heard us talk about our chaos of that night, but not necessarily the chaos of the night as much as it was the introduction to her and her music. And Lana, I must say, I have thoroughly enjoyed introducing you to the Maker's Bar audience. And I thank you for being one of the leaders on the cusp of introducing young people to jazz, and not even just jazz, but singer-songwriter. I think some of that craft is missing, and you're still one of the leaders in that example of young people who care about writing quality music. I thank you so much. Pardon me. I thank you so much for sharing that with us this evening.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure, my sweetheart. I just love you so much. I value your humility, your talent, your strength, and your power as a young lady. You are one of the leaders that we are looking for in the future, and I'm so glad you were exposed to the Maker's Bar audience. What I'd like to be able to share with the Maker's Bar audience, please, tonight you saw Seth Garu Baxter with Maker's Bar having fun this evening, but also on such a great note of exposing you to talent that is out there. Lana is one of those talents that are out there, and her heart, her spirit, and the energy that she puts out is so vibrant. I'm so glad you were able to come this evening and check us out. Please press like, subscribe, share this video, get Lana and her music exposed, check her out on her Instagram, and let people know Maker's Bar is a channel where you will not get interviews like this. Interviews like this, in particular from my channel, are to give people an example of some of the young leaders who are coming up today. Lana Drincic is one of those leaders. I know you will get a great deal of reward from listening to her and admiring her talent. Lana, is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with this evening?
I just want to say, again, thank you so much for having me and asking all your great questions. And thank you to everybody who tuned in.
I am so glad. I thank you, Jess, for sharing the time. I wanted to for a while to be able to, as I mentioned, share them. And I'm so glad you took out time from your schedule, especially with the album release, to take time to speak with us. I already love you so dearly, Chick, and I'm so looking forward to all the good stuff we're going to do. And then we have an event coming up next spring, and I'm looking forward to a full scope of your band and your friends, and or just you, to be able to dazzle them with your talent. Make sense?
Yeah.
Tonight, you got a sample of some of the Maker's Bar cutting edge innovators with Lana Drincic. It's your boy Seth Garu with Maker's Bar, creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. You saw an example. One of those 1 million leaders are youth leaders with Lana Drincic. Remember, you are the revolution that becomes the love-evolution. Become a part of that. Give everyone a piece of your presence, but not steal your peace. Love you, Maker's Bar audience. We look forward to seeing you next time. Lana, you have a great evening. I'm looking forward to talking to you after this interview and in the future for some of the events we're going to do. Stay woke, young people. Love-evolution lives, and you are the love-evolution. Peace.